I am Rebecca, 32, a software engineer who finally bought my dream home after years of hard work. When Mom lost her job and my brother faced eviction, I opened my doors without hesitation. Family helps family, right? I was excited for movie nights and Sunday dinners, thinking we could build stronger bonds. I never imagined my generosity would be taken for granted, or that my own mother would tell me to leave my house. Before I dive into how my own family took advantage of me, let me know where you are watching from and hit that subscribe button if you have ever had family mistake your kindness for weakness. Growing up, we never had much. My parents divorced when I was 12, leaving Mom to raise both Jason and me on a teacher assistant salary. I watched her struggle with bills, working extra jobs during summers, working part-time at the campus IT department to cover expenses not covered by my scholarships. After graduation, I landed an entry-level position at a tech startup and steadily climbed the ranks. By 30, I had saved enough for a down payment on my dream home. My house was everything I had worked for. 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, a spacious kitchen with granite countertops, and most importantly, a dedicated home office for remote work days. The backyard was modest, but had a lovely patio where I enjoyed morning coffee. At $750,000, it stretched my budget. But my career trajectory made it manageable. I felt immense pride walking through rooms I owned, arranging furniture exactly how I wanted, and painting walls without landlord permission. Then came the call that changed everything. Mom sobbed on the phone. At 58, she had been laid off from the school district after budget cuts eliminated several teaching assistant positions. With limited skills and her age working against her, job prospects looked bleak. Her voice trembled as she admitted falling 2 months behind on rent. The next day, Jason called. My 28-year-old brother had lost his bartending job when the restaurant closed suddenly. With no savings and terrible credit, he faced eviction from his apartment. They both asked if they could stay with me temporarily, just until they got back on their feet. I said yes without hesitation. My home had plenty of space, and I could easily afford the mortgage. This was my chance to repay Mom for all her sacrifices. For Jason, I hoped living with me might provide stability he needed to find direction. When they arrived with suitcases and boxes, I welcomed them with optimism. The first evening, we ordered pizza and watched a movie in the living room. Mom complimented my decorating taste, and Jason seemed grateful, offering to handle lawn maintenance and minor repairs. The first week felt like an extended family visit. We took turns cooking dinner, shared stories over meals, and even played board games one evening. Mom helped with laundry, and Jason fixed a leaky bathroom faucet. I thought, this might actually work out beautifully. By week 2, subtle changes emerged. I noticed Mom rearranging kitchen cabinets without asking. When I mentioned it, she replied, "This organization makes more sense. You never were good at organizing things efficiently." Her tone suggested she was doing me a favor. Jason gradually claimed the living room as his domain. His gaming console connected to the main TV, clothes draped over the couch, energy drink cans accumulating on the coffee table. When I asked him to clean up, he would do so reluctantly, but the mess returned by the next day. 1 month in, I realized Jason needed more private space than the living room couch. Despite needing my home office for remote work, I offered it to him. I spent a weekend moving my desk and equipment to a corner of my bedroom, converting the office into a proper bedroom for him. "Thanks, sis," he said, seeming genuinely moved. "This is temporary. I promise." I nodded, ignoring the discomfort of sacrificing my workspace. My productivity would suffer, but family comes first, right? As weeks passed, small irritations multiplied. Mom criticized my grocery choices, replacing items in my cart with her preferences during shopping trips. Jason stayed up gaming until 3 a.m., his boisterous reactions to games echoing through the house while I tried to sleep before early meetings. When minor disagreements arose, I reminded myself this arrangement was temporary. Every family has adjustment periods when living together. Things would settle into a rhythm soon. Then came the end of the first month when household bills arrived. The mortgage payment of $4,200, utilities totaling $750, groceries for 3 adults approaching $1,200. I had also been helping Jason with his $600 monthly student loan payment since he graduated, not wanting him to default and ruin his credit further. When I mentioned splitting costs, both seemed surprised. "Honey, you know I have no income right now," Mom said. "Once I find work, of course I will contribute." Jason nodded. "Same here. The job market is brutal, but I am applying everywhere." I swallowed my disappointment and paid everything myself. After all, what was family for if not to help during difficult times? They would contribute soon enough. But as days turned into weeks, I started wondering exactly when temporary would end, and if I had made a terrible mistake. By the 3rd month, the financial reality of supporting 3 adults hit hard. My monthly expenses had ballooned to an unsustainable $9,300. Beyond the mortgage, $4,200, utilities, $750, and groceries, $1,200, there were car payments and insurance for my vehicle, $1,150, continued assistance with Jason's student loan, $600, and miscellaneous expenses that seemed to multiply with 2 additional people in the house, $1,400. These included everything from increased internet costs for Jason gaming to specialized shampoo Mom insisted she needed for her thinning hair. My once healthy savings account was dwindling rapidly. The emergency fund I had diligently built over years was now my regular expense account. Each month, I watched my financial security erode while trying to maintain a supportive attitude. The situation with my home office affected my work performance noticeably. Video calls from my bedroom looked unprofessional, and concentrating with Mom vacuuming or watching TV nearby proved challenging. My supervisor mentioned during our one-on-one that my productivity had slipped compared to previous quarters. "Everything okay at home, Rebecca?" she asked. I nodded and smiled. "Just some temporary family matters. I will get back on track." Meanwhile, Mom's job search became increasingly sporadic. Initially, she spent hours daily updating her resume and applying online. By month 3, she browsed job sites occasionally, sighing dramatically about age discrimination and the futility of applying. "They want young people with technology skills," she complained one evening. "Nobody values experience anymore." When I suggested community college courses to update her skills, she dismissed the idea. At my age? Be realistic, Rebecca. Jason claimed to be pursuing remote work opportunities, but I rarely saw evidence of actual interviews. His gaming console received far more attention than his laptop. Empty promises of finding work next week became a recurring theme at our dinner table. After covering all expenses for 3 months straight, I attempted to establish a chore schedule. The house was consistently messier than when I lived alone, despite having more adults to help maintain it. I created a simple rotation for cooking, cleaning, and laundry. Mom scoffed when I presented it. "Really, Rebecca? Treating your mother like a child with chore charts? I raised you better than this." Reluctantly, she agreed to the schedule, but compliance lasted less than a week. Soon I found myself cooking after 10-hour workdays while Mom watched reality TV, claiming fatigue from job hunting. The physical boundaries within my home gradually disappeared. Mom moved my personal items to make room for her things, claiming spaces as if they were communal. My skincare products vanished from the bathroom counter, relocated to a drawer because they cluttered the space. My books disappeared from the living room shelves to accommodate her ceramic figurine collection. My friends noticed my withdrawal from social activities. Alicia, my closest friend since college, texted repeatedly asking why I kept canceling our usual weekend brunches. Finally, I confided in her over coffee during a rare lunch break away from home. "This situation sounds completely one-sided," Alicia said after listening to my situation. "They are taking advantage of your kindness, Becca." "They're family," I replied weakly. "And they have nowhere else to go." "That does not mean you should sacrifice your financial future and mental health," she countered. "Have you calculated how much this is costing you?" That night, I did exactly that. Reviewing my bank statements, I realized I had spent over $27,900 supporting my family in just 3 months. At this rate, my savings would be completely depleted within a year. The following week was my birthday. I did not expect gifts given their financial situation, but neither Mom nor Jason acknowledged it until evening, when I mentioned picking up a cake for myself. "Oh, is that today?" Mom looked genuinely surprised. "Happy birthday, honey." I have been so focused on job applications, it slipped my mind. Jason at least had the decency to look embarrassed, quickly offering to do dishes as a birthday present. That night, lying in bed, I felt a profound loneliness despite having family under my roof. The growing resentment scared me. These were people I loved, yet I found myself avoiding them, working late at the office rather than coming home. The next day, I had lunch with Carolyn, a colleague who had become a friend and mentor. When I mentioned my situation in vague terms, her response was direct. "Rebecca, you're enabling their dependence. Helping family is admirable, but there need to be boundaries and expectations. Otherwise, temporary becomes permanent." Her words resonated deeply. After careful thought, I decided it was time for an honest conversation with Mom and Jason about expectations, contributions, and a timeline for our living arrangement. I practiced what I would say, determined to be firm but understanding. This conversation needed to happen before resentment permanently damaged our relationships. 5 months into our cohabitation, I finally gathered courage for the financial conversation. I prepared meticulously, calculating exact expenses and researching reasonable contribution expectations given their situations. I waited until after dinner on a Friday, when weekend stress would be minimal. "I need to talk about household finances," I began, showing them a spreadsheet of monthly expenses. "I am happy to help during this transition period, but I cannot sustain covering everything indefinitely." Mom crossed her arms. "Are you saying we are a burden?" "Not at all," I clarified. "I am just suggesting we discuss how we can make this arrangement more balanced." "You make 6 figures," she countered. "These bills are nothing for someone at your income level." Jason nodded. "Plus, you would be paying mortgage and utilities anyway, even if we were not here." I took a deep breath. "Yes, but groceries have tripled, utilities have increased significantly, and there are many additional expenses. I am not asking for equal contribution, just something reasonable based on what you can afford." "From what exactly?" Mom asked sharply. "My non-existent paycheck? The jobs that will not hire me? Maybe part-time work? Even minimum wage would help while you look for something in your field," I suggested. Her expression hardened. "After all I sacrificed raising you alone, this is how you repay me? Demanding rent from your unemployed mother." The conversation deteriorated from there. Jason accused me of being materialistic, reminding me that family should support each other unconditionally. Mom brought up every financial sacrifice she had made during my childhood, implying my current request was both ungrateful and selfish. By the end, nothing was resolved. I retreated to my bedroom, feeling worse than before the conversation started. The failed financial discussion opened floodgates for other issues. The next week, I attempted to reclaim some personal space. "I need to use the living room for a few hours tonight for a virtual networking event," I told Jason, who was starting another gaming session. He sighed dramatically. "Seriously? Where am I supposed to go? Your bedroom? Just for 3 hours? That tiny space? My gaming setup is here. Can you not do your thing in your bedroom like usual?" When I insisted, he stomped off, slamming doors and making enough noise during my event that I had to repeatedly mute myself, appearing unprofessional to colleagues. Privacy became non-existent. Mom entered my bedroom without knocking, borrowed my clothes without asking, and read messages on my phone if I left it unattended. When confronted, she acted wounded. "We never had these secrecy issues before you moved away," she said. "Living alone has made you selfish with your things." The next boundary violation came when I returned from work to find our house filled with unfamiliar faces. Mom had invited her church friends over without mentioning it. They occupied every seat in the living room, using my good dishes, drinking wine I had been saving for a special occasion. "You should have texted," I whispered to her in the kitchen. "Why?" "It is family home," she replied loudly enough for others to hear. "You are always working anyway." That night, her friends stayed until midnight, their laughter making sleep impossible. I had an important presentation the next morning and performed poorly on 4 hours of sleep. My boss noticed, pulling me aside afterward. "Rebecca, this is not like you. Is everything all right?" I nodded automatically, but it was a lie. Nothing was all right. My previously organized, peaceful home had become a chaotic space where I felt increasingly unwelcome. My work performance continued declining, putting my upcoming promotion at risk. Sleep became elusive. Jason gaming sessions extended into early morning hours. Mom watched TV at full volume, claiming hearing difficulty when I asked her to lower it. I invested in expensive noise-canceling headphones, but even those could not fully block their disruptive behavior. Food became another battleground. I would purchase groceries, planning meals for the week, only to find ingredients consumed before I could use them. Special treats I bought for myself disappeared without acknowledgement. The final straw came when I discovered someone had eaten an expensive box of chocolates a client had given me as thanks for exceptional work. When confronted, both Mom and Jason denied responsibility, suggesting I had eaten them myself and forgotten. Anxiety attacks became regular occurrences. I would lock myself in the bathroom, silently crying while trying to regulate my breathing. The home that once represented my greatest achievement now felt like a prison. After a particularly difficult week, I booked an emergency session with a therapist. Dr. Winters listened carefully to my situation before offering her professional assessment. "What you are describing sounds like emotional manipulation," she explained. "Setting boundaries is not just healthy, it is necessary for your well-being. Have you considered establishing a firm timeline for when this arrangement will end?" I shook my head. Every time I try discussing the future, Mom gets defensive and accuses me of abandoning family. "That is precisely the manipulation I am referring to," Dr. Winters said. "You might need to make difficult decisions for your own mental health, even if they initially seem harsh." With Dr. Winters' guidance, I developed a more structured approach for my next conversation with Mom and Jason. I would present clear expectations with specific timelines, focusing on behavior rather than character, and remain firm regardless of emotional tactics. I felt a renewed determination as I drove home. This time, things would be different. This time, I would stand my ground. 8 months into our living arrangement, I could no longer ignore the toll it was taking on every aspect of my life. My savings had dwindled alarmingly. My job performance reviews showed consistent decline, and my mental health was deteriorating rapidly. Following my therapist's advice, I prepared extensively for another family meeting. I wrote down specific points to address, practiced responses to potential arguments, and set clear, reasonable expectations. I even researched affordable housing options for both Mom and Jason to present as helpful alternatives. This conversation would be different from previous failed attempts. I chose a Sunday afternoon when everyone was home and relatively relaxed. I had prepared a simple document outlining financial contributions that would be manageable even with their limited incomes, along with a 6-week timeline for implementation. "I have given this a lot of thought," I began, sitting at the dining table with my notes. "Our current arrangement is not sustainable long-term, so I have created some options for moving forward." Mom immediately frowned. "Here we go again with the money talk." "This is about more than money," I explained calmly. "It is about creating a household where everyone contributes in some way and respects shared spaces." I outlined my proposal. Jason could contribute $400 monthly toward household expenses once he found even part-time work, which I had researched was achievable even in entry-level positions. Mom could handle certain household responsibilities consistently while continuing her job search. Most importantly, I included a reasonable timeline for them to find alternative housing within 3 months. 3 months? Mom interrupted, her voice rising. "You expect me to what, live on the street?" "Of course not," I replied. "I have researched affordable senior housing options with income-based rent. There is a nice complex just 20 minutes from here." Jason scoffed. "So you're just throwing us out?" After all your talk about family sticking together. I am not throwing anyone out, I insisted. I am asking for a plan that respects everyone's needs, including mine. I have supported both of you for 8 months without any contribution. Contribution? Mom stood up, face flushing. I raised you for 18 years without demanding rent. I worked multiple jobs to put food on our table. And I am grateful for that, I said. But this situation is different. I cannot financially or emotionally sustain this arrangement indefinitely. So your fancy career and money matter more than family, she said, voice dripping with disappointment. I did not raise you to be so selfish. It is not selfish to ask for basic respect in my own home, I countered, struggling to maintain composure. Your home? Mom laughed bitterly. This house would be empty most days if we were not here. You work constantly. We bring life to this place. Life? You mean mess, noise, and financial drain? The words escaped before I could stop them. Her expression hardened. If you do not like living with family, you can leave. I stared at her, momentarily speechless. Leave? This is my house. My name is on the mortgage. We are your family, she declared, as if that trumped all logic and property rights. Act like it. Jason remained silent, avoiding eye contact, neither supporting me nor openly opposing his mother. His passivity hurt almost as much as Mom's direct attack. The argument escalated further, with Mom bringing up every sacrifice she had ever made. Every time she had supported me, implying that my current success was only possible because of her. When I attempted to redirect the conversation to specific issues and solutions, she dismissed my concerns as materialistic and cold. After an hour of circular arguments and mounting tension, I realized this conversation, like all others, would resolve nothing. A profound sadness washed over me, followed by something unexpected, clarity. Without another word, I walked to my bedroom and packed an overnight bag. Neither Mom nor Jason asked what I was doing as I grabbed my laptop, chargers, and a change of clothes. Where are you going? Mom finally asked as I headed for the front door. Giving you space in my house, since apparently I do not belong here anymore, I replied, voice steady despite the storm inside me. I spent that night in my car, parked in my company office lot. The seats were uncomfortable, the space confining, but somehow I felt freer than I had in months. Tears came in waves as I processed the reality that my own mother had suggested I leave my own home. That family I had sacrificed for saw me as nothing more than a financial resource. Sleep came fitfully, interrupted by security patrols checking the lot and my own churning thoughts. As dawn broke, I watched the sunrise from my windshield, the first light illuminating everything with unexpected clarity. In that moment of quiet morning light, something shifted inside me. I had been enabling this situation, allowing guilt and family obligation to override my own well-being. My generosity had not been met with gratitude, but with entitlement. My boundaries had been not just crossed, but erased entirely. Sitting there in my car, I opened my banking app and made a single, decisive transfer. I moved a significant portion of my remaining savings to a new account they could not access. This money would be my safety net, my reclamation of control. Mom did not know it yet. But with her callous words the previous night, she had signed her own way out. This was no longer about finding compromise. This was about reclaiming my home, my finances, and my peace of mind. As the morning traffic began filtering into the parking lot, I straightened my clothes, fixed my hair in the rearview mirror, and prepared for the workday ahead. For the first time in months, I felt something close to peace. The path forward was now clear, even if it would be painful. I returned home that evening with renewed purpose. The night in my car had been uncomfortable physically, but clarifying mentally. During work breaks, I had researched tenant rights and family accommodation laws. Though Mom and Jason had no formal lease, they had established residency, which meant I needed to follow proper legal channels. First thing after work, I met with Diana, a real estate attorney who specialized in landlord-tenant disputes. Her office was small but immaculate, walls lined with law books and credentials. Even with family, you need to protect yourself legally, Diana advised, reviewing my situation. Without a formal agreement, they have established tenant rights after living there more than 30 days. She outlined the eviction process, emphasizing documentation and formal notices. Give written notice with clear timelines. In most states, 30 days is standard minimum notice for month-to-month tenancies, which is essentially what you have. I paid her retainer fee and scheduled a follow-up appointment for the following week. Next, I visited Terrence, a financial advisor who helped me create a recovery plan for my depleted savings. You need to stop the bleeding immediately, he said, reviewing my expenses. Family support is admirable, but not at the expense of your financial security. Armed with professional advice and documentation of all I had paid over the past 8 months, I returned home with a new approach. Rather than emotional appeals or desperate negotiations, I would treat this as the business arrangement it should have been from the start. Mom and Jason were watching TV when I arrived, neither acknowledging my absence the previous night. I set my briefcase on the dining table and called them both over. "We need to talk," I said calmly. "I have some changes to implement effective immediately." The confidence in my voice must have surprised them. They exchanged glances before reluctantly joining me at the table. "I have consulted with legal counsel regarding our living situation," I began, removing folders from my briefcase. "As of today, I am implementing formal household rules and financial expectations." Mom snorted. "Legal counsel? Against your own family? This is ridiculous." "What happened to you, Becca?" Jason asked. "You have changed." "Yes, I have," I agreed. "I have realized that genuine support does not mean enabling dependence, and that real family respect goes both ways." I presented them each with a document outlining new house rules. Quiet hours between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m., shared spaces to be kept clean, personal items to remain untouched without permission, and guests only with 24-hour advance notice. Another document detailed financial arrangements. Jason would pay $400 monthly for room and board, Mom $300, with both contributing to household chores. "This is effective immediately." With the first payment due in 2 weeks, I explained. "If these terms are not acceptable, I am providing the standard 30-day notice for you to find alternative housing." "You cannot be serious." Mom gasped. "Charging your own mother rent." "I have been covering approximately $9,300 in monthly expenses while you both live here completely free," I replied evenly. "I have documentation of every dollar spent supporting this household for 8 months. That arrangement ends today." "And if we refuse?" Mom challenged. "Then I will proceed with formal eviction proceedings," I answered without hesitation. "I have already consulted with an attorney on the process." Jason looked stunned. "You would actually evict us? Your own family?" "I sincerely hope it does not come to that," I said honestly. "But I will not continue sacrificing my financial future and mental health without any reciprocal respect or contribution." I slid a third document across the table. A list of affordable housing options in the area, including senior communities for Mom and shared apartments for Jason. "I am not abandoning you," I clarified. "I am asking for reasonable adult contributions to a shared household. The choice of how we proceed is now yours." Without waiting for further argument, I stood and walked to my former office, which had been Jason's room for 8 months. "I will need this space back for work by this weekend," I informed him. "You can move your things to the guest bedroom down the hall." Jason started to protest, but something in my expression stopped him. For the first time, he seemed to realize I was deadly serious. Over the next several days, the household dynamics shifted dramatically. Mom initially attempted her usual tactics, emotional manipulation, bringing up my childhood, questioning my values, but my responses remained calm and consistent. "I understand you're upset," I would say. My terms remain the same. When she tried turning family members against me, calling my aunt to complain about my cruelty, I preemptively reached out to key family members with a factual, unemotional explanation of the situation, including the total amount I had spent supporting Mom and Jason. My aunt's response was illuminating. "Martha has always been skilled at playing the victim," she said, referring to my mother. "I love my sister, but she has been taking advantage of your kindness. Stand your ground." By the end of the week, I had reclaimed my office, moving Jason's gaming setup to the smaller, but still comfortable guest room. He complied reluctantly, but without the explosive resistance I had feared. Something had changed in his demeanor, a spark of recognition, perhaps, that the situation had indeed been unfair. The new house rules were posted on the refrigerator, and I enforced them consistently. When Mom forgot about quiet hours, watching TV loudly at midnight, I calmly turned it off and reminded her of the agreement. When Jason left dishes piled in the sink for 2 days, I placed them on his bed with a note about shared responsibilities. Each small enforcement of boundaries strengthened my resolve. Though Mom hostility increased with each passing day, I found myself less affected by her emotional barbs. The clarity I had found that morning in my car remained, a protective shield against manipulation. "You were never this cold before," she commented one evening. "Success has changed you." "Not success," I corrected. "Self-respect." By the end of the month, a remarkable shift occurred. Jason approached me privately while Mom was out grocery shopping. "I want to talk about my situation," he said, showing unusual seriousness. "I have been applying for jobs." "Actually applying?" "Not just saying I was." He showed me his email, filled with application confirmations and even a couple of interview requests. "I know I have been taking advantage," he admitted. "It was just easy to fall into that pattern when Mom kept saying we deserved your support." His honesty surprised me. "I never minded helping, Jason. I minded being taken for granted." "I can see that now," he nodded. "And for what it is worth, I think Mom has been treating you unfairly." That single acknowledgement helped heal something inside me. At least one family member recognized the imbalance that had developed. Perhaps there was hope for rebuilding our relationship after all. As the 30-day deadline approached, tension in the house reached new heights. Mom alternated between icy silence and tearful recriminations, while Jason spent increasing time away from home, actually attending job interviews and, surprisingly, landing an entry-level position at a local warehouse. "It is just order fulfillment, nothing fancy," he explained when sharing the news. "But it is full-time with benefits. And they said there is room for advancement." I felt genuine pride in his effort. "That is excellent, Jason." "Really? I can pay the $400 rent starting next month," he added. "And maybe eventually I can pay you back some of what you spent on me these past months." His acknowledgement of the debt, both financial and moral, meant more than he could know. It suggested growth and maturity I had not seen in him before. Mom, however, doubled down on her resistance. When the deadline was 1 week away, she launched a coordinated attack, contacting extended family members with a distorted version of events, portraying herself as an aging mother cruelly cast out by her ungrateful daughter. The calls started coming in immediately. Cousin Stephanie chastised me for abandoning family. Uncle Robert suggested I was betraying my upbringing. Each call required patient explanation of the actual circumstances, including the 8 months of complete financial support and reasonable accommodations I had offered. Most family members eventually understood my position once they heard the full story. But the process was emotionally draining. Mom had always been skilled at presenting herself as the victim, a talent that had only sharpened with age. "Your mother is beside herself," my grandmother said during one such call. "She raised you alone after your father left. Does that count for nothing?" "It counts for everything," I replied. "That is why I welcomed her into my home without hesitation." "But Grandma, she has been here 8 months without contributing anything financially or showing basic respect for my space and boundaries." After explaining the situation fully, even my grandmother acknowledged the imbalance. "Martha always did have a blind spot when it came to entitlement," she admitted reluctantly. "Your mother sometimes struggles with being on the receiving end of help." These conversations, though difficult, helped solidify my resolve. I was not the villain in this story, despite Mom's efforts to cast me in that role. 3 days before the deadline, Jason approached me with an unexpected revelation. "There is something you should know about Mom," he said, voice low though she was out shopping. "This is not the first time she has done this." He explained that before moving in with me, Mom had lived with his former roommate family for nearly a year. Following a similar pattern of initial gratitude followed by gradual entitlement and boundary pushing, ending with a bitter departure when they finally established limits. She has a pattern of dependency, he explained. When I was between apartments in college, she moved in with me supposedly for 2 weeks. She stayed for 6 months until my roommates threatened to break the lease. This information helped me understand the situation with new clarity. This was not a temporary hardship, but a behavioral pattern Mom had repeated throughout her adult life. "Why did you never tell me this before?" I asked. He looked ashamed. "She is still my mother. And, honestly, it was easier to go along with her than stand up to her. I am not proud of that." Jason's revelation strengthened my determination to maintain boundaries. This wasn't just about my current situation. It was about breaking a dysfunctional pattern that had affected our family for years. The evening before the deadline, I prepared a simple but nice family dinner. Whatever happened next, this might be our last meal together in this house, and despite everything, I wanted to mark the occasion with dignity. As we sat down to eat, the unspoken question hung heavy in the air. Finally, Mom broke the silence. "I have made arrangements to stay with Aunt Patricia," she announced stiffly, "since I am apparently no longer welcome in my daughter's home." I bit back the correction that it was, in fact, my home. Instead, I simply nodded. "When will you be moving?" "This weekend," she replied. "Patricia is coming with her truck on Saturday." The relief I felt was tempered with genuine sadness. Despite everything, I had hoped for a different resolution. One that allowed us to maintain a relationship while establishing healthy boundaries. Jason cleared his throat. "I have found an apartment to share with 2 other guys from the warehouse. The rent is reasonable, split 3 ways. I can move in next week." "You're abandoning me too?" Mom asked him, voice sharp with accusation. He met her gaze steadily. "I am not abandoning anyone. I am being an adult and supporting myself. There is a difference." Mom dropped her fork with a clatter. "So this is how it ends. My children turning their backs on me when I need them most." "That is not what is happening," I said quietly. "We are asking for mutual respect and reasonable boundaries. Your needs matter, but so do ours." "I raised you both alone," she began, falling back on her most reliable weapon. "Yes, you did," Jason interrupted, surprising both of us. "And we are grateful." "But Mom, that does not entitle you to control our adult lives or take advantage of our generosity forever." Mom stared at him, clearly shocked by his unprecedented defiance. For a moment, I glimpsed uncertainty in her eyes, perhaps even a flicker of self-awareness. But it passed quickly, replaced by the familiar righteous indignation. "I see I have raised 2 selfish, ungrateful children," she declared, standing up. Patricia was right about how money changes people. She left the table without another word, retreating to her room where we could hear her making phone calls, no doubt updating allies about her children's latest betrayal. Jason and I finished dinner in silence, the weight of the confrontation hanging between us. Finally, he spoke. "She will not change, will she?" I shook my head sadly. "Probably not. But we can change how we respond to her." Saturday arrived with tense efficiency. Aunt Patricia, Mom's younger sister, arrived with her pickup truck, offering me tight smiles and minimal conversation. I had always liked Patricia, but her loyalty to Mom clearly outweighed our relationship. I helped carry boxes to the truck, maintaining polite composure despite Mom's pointed remarks about being evicted by my own daughter within Patricia hearing. When the last box was loaded, Mom faced me on the driveway. "I hope your precious house and money bring you happiness," she said, voice laden with martyrdom. "Since family clearly means so little to you." The old me would have crumbled under such an attack, rushing to apologize and make amends. The new me recognized it for what it was, a final attempt at emotional manipulation. "I love you, Mom," I said simply. "When you are ready for a relationship based on mutual respect, my door is open." She left without hugging me, another calculated wound. I watched the truck disappear down the street, a complex mixture of sadness, relief, and resolution settling over me. The following week, I helped Jason move into his new apartment. The place was modest but clean, his roommates seeming like responsible young men with steady jobs. "Thank you," he said as we carried in the last of his belongings. "Not just for the help today, but for pushing me to finally grow up." "You did that yourself," I told him. "I am proud of you." Our goodbye was warm, with promises to meet for dinner regularly. Unlike with Mom, I felt confident we could rebuild a healthier relationship moving forward. That evening, I returned to an empty, quiet house. For the first time in 10 months, every room belonged to me again. The silence felt not lonely but peaceful, like a long exhale after holding my breath for too long. The first week alone in my house again felt surreal. I kept expecting to hear Mom TV or Jason gaming sounds. The absence of tension was almost disorienting, like a constant background noise suddenly silenced. I began the process of reclaiming my space, one room at a time. I deep cleaned every corner, rearranged furniture, and repainted walls marked by scuffs and nail holes. Each stroke of the brush felt like erasing months of boundary violations and replacing them with self-respect. The guest bedroom that had been Mom room was transformed into a cozy reading nook, filled with books I had kept in storage during their stay. Jason's former room returned to its original purpose as my home office, now with improved organization and a better ergonomic setup. With physical spaces reclaimed, I turned attention to emotional and financial recovery. My savings had taken a severe hit, with over $93,000 spent supporting my family over 10 months. Following my financial advisor plan, I implemented strict budgeting and increased my retirement contributions to make up for lost time. The first few family gatherings after the separation were undeniably awkward. At my grandmother's birthday celebration, Mom maintained cold distance, speaking to me only when absolutely necessary. Some relatives took sides, creating uncomfortable dynamics, but most simply wanted peace restored. Jason, to his credit, navigated these situations with newfound maturity. He maintained relationships with both Mom and me, refusing to be drawn into taking sides. His steady job performance earned him a supervisor position within 6 months, an achievement he proudly shared during our monthly dinner meetups. "I have been paying off my credit card debt," he told me over pasta at our favorite Italian restaurant. "And I am looking into community college courses for business management." "That is fantastic," I said, genuinely proud of his progress. "The warehouse seems like a good fit for you." He nodded. "It is the first job I have actually cared about keeping. And my roommates are solid guys, not enabling my worst habits like Mom did." His insight into our family dynamics continued to evolve. During these dinners, we often discussed our upbringing and the patterns that had shaped us both. "I always thought you were the golden child," he admitted during one such conversation. "Mom criticized me constantly but praised everything you did. I resented you for that." "That was not my reality at all," I replied, surprised. "She always compared me to other people's children, saying I never quite measured up. Nothing was ever good enough." These revelations helped us understand how Mom had unconsciously pitted us against each other, perhaps to maintain control or deflect examination of her own behavior. My relationship with Mom remained strained but civil. She eventually stopped bad-mouthing me to relatives when it became clear my version of events was supported by facts and Jason testimony. We settled into a distant but functional relationship, limited to holiday gatherings and occasional family events. During this period of readjustment, I maintained regular sessions with Dr. Winters, my therapist. Her guidance proved invaluable in processing residual guilt and establishing healthier boundaries in all relationships. "What you are experiencing is common when breaking dysfunctional family patterns," she explained. "The person setting boundaries is often vilified initially. Standing firm despite disapproval is part of the growth process." She helped me recognize that genuine support differs fundamentally from enabling. "Helping someone means assisting them toward independence and growth," she said. "Enabling prevents natural consequences and perpetuates dependency." 6 months after Mom and Jason moved out, my work performance rebounded dramatically. The promotion I had nearly lost came through with a significant salary increase. My boss commented on my renewed focus and creativity, unaware of the personal battles that had affected my previous performance. As my financial situation stabilized, I established clear rules for any future family assistance. I would help with specific, time-limited needs rather than open-ended support. Any family staying in my home would need a formal agreement regarding duration, contributions, and behavioral expectations. The first holiday season after our separation tested these new boundaries. Mom initially refused my invitation for Thanksgiving dinner, but Aunt Patricia convinced her to attend. The meal was tense but civil, with conversation carefully navigating around sensitive topics. By Christmas, a new normal had begun to emerge. Mom brought a store-bought pie rather than arriving empty-handed, a small but meaningful acknowledgement of reciprocity. Jason gave thoughtful, modest gifts he had clearly saved for, rather than empty promises or last-minute token offerings. As winter turned to spring, I reflected on the profound lessons the past year had taught me. True generosity requires boundaries to remain sustainable. Family loyalty should never require complete self-sacrifice. Enabling harmful patterns serves no one, even when done with love. Setting boundaries is not selfish but necessary for healthy relationships. Genuine support empowers independence rather than fostering dependence. Self-respect is the foundation for all other healthy relationships. 1 year after Mom and Jason had moved out, my home felt truly mine again. My savings were slowly rebuilding, my career thriving, and my social connections renewed. Most importantly, I had developed an inner confidence that could not be shaken by guilt or manipulation. Jason continued his positive trajectory, eventually moving into his own apartment and maintaining our improved sibling relationship. Mom remained Mom, seemingly incapable of acknowledging her role in what had transpired. But I had made peace with that limitation. I could love her while protecting myself from harmful patterns. The experience, painful as it was, had transformed me. I learned that sometimes the most loving action is establishing firm boundaries, even when those boundaries are initially met with resistance and resentment. I discovered my own strength and worth in ways that would never have emerged had I continued enabling unhealthy dynamics. If you have ever faced the challenge of setting boundaries with family, I hope my story offers some comfort and courage. Remember that genuine love supports growth and independence, not dependency and entitlement. Sometimes the hardest decisions lead to the healthiest outcomes for everyone involved. Have you ever had to establish difficult boundaries with people you love? Share your experience in the comments below. How did you balance compassion with self-care? Like and subscribe if this story resonated with you, and remember, family support should lift everyone up, not drag anyone down. Thank you for listening to my journey, and I wish you strength in your own path toward healthy relationships.